Welcome back to the Pet Air podcast. I am extremely excited to have an automated CEO OG in the house. She has spent over 200 hours crafting her skill, and she's going to be talking about creating layers of staff. A lot of times in the pet industry, our biggest hiccup is hiring people. Who should we hire? When should we hire? How can we set them up for success? Who comes next? Who comes first? And everything in between. So I have Carla Tittle with me today, owner of Texas Ruff House out of the suburbs of Austin, Texas. Carla, how you feeling today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having
No
me.
problem. So I specifically wanted you on because we've spent a lot of time together. We've kind of gone
Yeah.
through your business. You've evolved so much. You've changed. You've stuck to some of your ways also. So I feel like you really know like who you are, like your core values. So that's really
hmm
important, especially, when you have different mentors in your space and people telling you what to do and how to do it. But you've made some like huge moves on your own. So I kind of wanted to take the listeners today, like kind of through your experience and also becoming an automated CEO. You're just coming off of a Egyptian tour with your
Yeah.
family. And those
Yeah.
give me chills because that's kind of what we're all about is like making sure you can set up your business in a way that really supports your
hmm
lifestyle. So I think this topic today, creating layers of staff, will do that for our audience. So I'm gonna have you take it
hmm
away.
hmm Yeah. Well, like you said, I started this business in 2015. I come from the education sector. So I was an educator, but previous to that, I was in the corporate world. So I have been able to use all of my experience um, in business and education and applied it all to the pet care world. And I think a big reflection of our underlying values, back end and front facing, all stem from the education sector.
Right. I see that a lot in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think when people realize like what makes them versus us so different, having that layer of background definitely gives you like the unfair advantage. You coming from the
hmm
educational field, I've seen like immediately in our program that I'm like, oh, Carla should be one of our coaches. And you've coached plenty of our membership groups because you kind of have that natural leadership inside of you. So I feel like that
hmm
also helps with hiring. It also helps with getting
hmm
people to take you serious. It also helps because you have
Yeah.
a way of explaining something so basic for just anyone to understand. And I don't think you have that power because people feel like, oh, I have years of experience doing this, but it's not always the years of experience. It's really your ability to break it down so minute for someone to grasp and really say to
hmm
themselves, okay, yeah, I could do this. Okay, cool. I got this.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I think that whether it's working with animals or working with adults, it's no different than teaching a 6-year-old.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
um, so when I talk about creating layers and in the business, when I taught, I'll take you back to what being a teacher is like. So being a teacher, I had 22 6-year-olds who at the beginning of the year didn't know how to read. So that means they can't do their own work because they don't know what the directions are. So how do I get 22 6-year-olds to be independent, know their routines, and be able to get work done without me? Because I had to be teaching a small group, and I have to teach this small group based on their level of where they are in their reading reading timeline. So it all boils down to the first 2 weeks of routines and procedures with 6-year-olds, teaching them where to go to find things on their own, where I house all of the supplies, all of the materials so that they can get what they need, how to go to a friend and ask a friend for help with any assignment, how to independently decide upon themselves when they needed to go use the bathroom. They didn't have to interrupt me to ask me for that. I had a procedure in place for that. So when it comes to running a big operation I have employees who have to be very independent in the field, I have to train them and give them all of the resources they need to be able to feel comfortable and confident to work independently, know where to go to find their answers to anything, and be able to be successful. Because anytime anybody has to come to me, so if a 6-year-old has to interrupt me when I'm with a small group, I have to think, what does a 6-year-old, what does this adult, what does this dog need that I haven't provided for him? Whether it's a puppy having his chew toys, learning their boundaries, or a grown adult being able to make decisions and know the routines of their job. It's all the
Right.
same.
So can you go deeper with us? So you know that it's all the same. So you already have that mindset shift that I think a lot of people may not realize. And that's a big part of it. It's understanding that, you know, a 6-year-old is still someone that needs to be broken down to. And just like you're learning a new skill, a language, or working with animals, you may not know all the behavioral language of a dog or a cat. You may not know what clients are expecting or how to write a really good report or how to, articulate something to a client without offending them. So can you break down with us a little bit more of how you help your team through like transitioning into the pet industry easier from coming, from fresh start for someone?
Right. So we start at the basic level. What do they need to be able to operate on day one with uh with a shadow or as a shadow? And then what do they need on day 5? And then what do they need on day 30 or 60 or 90 to be able to continue to grow? So what is we break it down, and this has come with experience on evaluating observationally our new hires. What are they lacking? What kinds of questions are they asking? And we use everything as a reflection point for us to evaluate our training program and our onboarding program. What kinds of hiccups did specific new hires come across that we could have done a better job preparing them for so that they didn't have to encounter those hiccups? Right. What kinds of questions do we pose to our new hires so that we can better develop our training program? We've even gone as far as having new hires help us develop certain training protocols. Like, for example, recently we had a new hire that we took. She needed let me back up. So we had a new hire that didn't really have a clear understanding of our cleaning protocols. So when we're in the house and we're looking after the health and well-being of the pets, what are some of the little things that we do to, in terms of cleaning, to make sure that this pet is in the best care? So she didn't have a really clear understanding of that even after we had gone through an orientation and training with her. So we had her help us design a cleaning protocol, a cleaning training, step by step, that we would then implement for all future new hires. And so seeing it from seen it through her eyes, fresh perspective, not coming in, really helped her feel included, valued, and it helped us see it with fresh eyes on what a person of her age may or may not have historical experience with in terms of house care or pet care, sanitation, and that regard. And so then now we have a whole new training protocol developed with her help.
Right.
So also with their gathering feedback from new hires post orientation, that helps us find the gaps in our training protocol of where we can further develop them. What are they still missing? What were they not clear on? Where do we need to go back and either pinpoint just for them, or maybe we need to explain more in our onboarding protocols or our onboarding training program.
Right. And I think that's one missed opportunity, like thinking back into all of our pet era, is that we think everyone's just going to get it, or we think that the majority are getting it. So we're like, oh, they're our top players and I really trust them. And, I don't have to blink an eye and they just get it. So why don't all the others get it? Or why don't the couple or a few that trickle in, are just a bad apple? And I think you said it perfectly. It's not about a bad apple or they need hand holding or they're just not a good fit. majority of the time, it's that we assume that the top dogs are the standard when we want to be creating protocols that fit the very newbie at a basic level for someone who like hasn't even seen this before, or they've never been taught how to clean it at home from their parents. You know, that I've seen a lot in my business where I'm like, oh shit, you literally never have cleaned anything. Yeah, it shows. You know, you're great with the animals, but the before and after, not so much. So let's go there.
Yes.
But sometimes, you know, we're burnt out and then we're busy and so much other things are going on. And you get that like, oh, I don't even want to deal with them right now. This is like so silly that you don't know how to clean up like an accident. When like you're saying, you have the proper training protocols from the very basic level and being able to revamp it based on new hires and different backgrounds of people who come in your system, and like not making them feel bad about it. It's just like, hey, I think probably we missed something in our process. So can you kind of like break it down again from your point of view? So we can hit it on all angles, right? So now, like you said, they've actually ended up creating the process, the systems for you, and you didn't even have to do it. That's what we mean when we say like when you're hiring people, they will pay for themselves. You will end up making more money because you're doing other things. They'll help you revamp your systems. They're going to help you scale faster and essentially pay their own salary because you're growing the business now at a record rate because they're filling up all the holes. A lot of times thinking back, like through the whole, our pet air is like, wow, even for myself, like I felt like I had to stop and like, oh no, they're not getting it. I don't know why. Let me stop and like figure this out. Let me get my genie mode on. And like, I don't even know. Like you're saying, you could just ask them like, hey, why don't you do it? Because clearly I don't feel like I need to be like therapist and then figure out the process. And then it still didn't make sense. And then you still don't get it. So much easier just to have them do it. And then you modify from there. And then sit down as a team and say, hey, is this clear for everybody? Like, did you all get this? Is this way a lot clearer than how I had it? As you know, being the leader, leading 6-year-olds, they will create their own pathway. And then you're like, okay, damn, well, let me keep growing the business. And you guys, you know, get all the little curves going. And I think a lot of times as like vets, we miss that. Like we think that we have to be the fixer when it's like, no, hire really like able-bodied people, not even the smartest, not even the most knowledgeable, not someone with the most work experience, not someone that's worked with animals their whole life, an able-bodied person that can articulate their thoughts and put it on paper. What do you think?
Right. Absolutely. And looking for those strengths and characteristics in the different people that you hire, really getting to know the people that you hire. What do they do at their other job? What do they enjoy doing on the side that you can put them in certain places in your organization to help you develop everyone else on your team?
Right. And me knowing your business like a fine-tooth comb that I do now, I feel like, would you say one of the biggest mistakes before was being like, oh, yeah, I think I do have a person who could do that. Oh, I think they would like that, actually.
Yes, because I am such a DIYer that I feel I have to do it all.
Right. I would be like, Carla, do you have a person you think that could do that? You're like, yeah, actually I do.
Yeah. Because I'd be like, you know who's a real clean freak? You know who's a clean freak as much as I am? Angela. And Angela would be great to make these videos. Yeah.
But then like you remember like when we talked, there were so many things where you felt like you had a mountain of to-dos and you're like, how am I going to get all this done? Like this all sounds great, but who's doing all this?
And you know, it all comes with practice. You just have to practice until you're comfortable enough to outsource it, to assign it out and find the other people to support you.
And give yourself permission
you cannot
to ask
do it
for
on
help.
your own.
Like I think a lot of us think that because we're the CEO or we're the owner, like we have to have the answer. And the most humbling experience from my pet era is being like, you know, I like your way better. Let's go with it. You have an idea? Run with it. Put it up on paper, show me it, and let's run with it. So if you're a new pet provider, especially, or even a seasoned one that feel like you've been in the game for so long, but you still have a mountain of work, look at the people, like Carla was just saying, look at the people around you, look at their strengths, weaknesses, ask them, like, write what we do in Automated CEO. We write a CEO list of all the things that we're currently doing, and then identify people in your team that could do them. And then if you don't have anyone that could do them, write a job description for that person. Because the next time you hire, you're specifically looking for someone who can take care of animals and do social media, take care of animals and do office work, take care of animals and run events. A lot of times we position the job description as like loving on animals, the best job in the world. And it's like, well, if we're going to be actually working on the business and not in the business, we need them to understand that we are team collaborated and they do have growth potential with us because there's and other things that they can do if they're looking for hours.
Yeah.
Talk about as a pet sitter in the suburbs, especially like how you handled kind of filling up their time or filling up space between what they have going on between pet sits. I know that's more challenging versus like a dog walker, trainer, groomer, breeder.
Yeah, well, we tend to stay pretty consistent in the suburbs. Well, the city that I live in has always been a telework city, even pre-COVID. So overcoming that aspect that, oh, my clients are home, they don't need us, has always been something that we've had to overcome. So filling up our team, making sure that they have full jobs, comes with finding what our clients need and tailoring our services to that. So we have very concentrated, even though we're in the suburbs and we service about 4 or 5 different city suburbs, they all blend in together, but we have worked hard to develop community relationships within all of these suburbs with other small businesses. So while we have a concentrated client base that we're targeting through our different programs, midday programs, vacation programs, we still have an opportunity to go through and visit our other community partners and thank them or just pop in and say hello. So we do a lot of work with pet supply stores, grooming stores, and local dog trainers as well. And some of them have an office facility and some of them just work out of the homes. So when it comes to filling the time for our team, it's just about being a face in front of our other community partners. So we fill their day with just popping in, and there's it doesn't always have to be a sell. We're just popping in and maybe we're saying a thank you for, just want to pop in and say thank you for referring Sally and Fido. We just met them and they said that you told them about us and, we're so excited to get to know them. So those are just some of the ways that we fill, but we're also, we're always looking for what our clients need to be able to fill that need during the day. And the way we restructure our services, we have a lot of flexibility in the times that we're arriving to the houses to be able to stack services. So we do pet sitting, dog walking, we do field trips, and seasonally we do camps as well. So we try to stack them all so that everything is flowing, and our clients are flexible as we have to adjust our hours seasonally as well. Because they want the services that their pets are getting. Right. So we've tailored a lot depending on what our clients are needing.
So tell us more what that looks like with creating layers of staff. So someone who is looking to hire or started to dip and dab a little bit, but really hasn't mastered it yet. From your experience throughout your pet era, how have you created those layers between different services, territories, seasons? Tell us more about that.
So when it comes to creating layers, of course, I started just with the field team. And then as I saw a need in certain areas in the back end, I would ask who enjoys doing this kind of stuff? Who enjoys doing this? I never ask my teammates, what are you good at? Are you good at blog writing? Are you good at talking to new people? Because I often feel humble people don't consider themselves good at it necessarily, but it could be something they enjoy. They enjoy writing. They enjoy taking pictures. They enjoy talking to people. So if I phrase what I need in a way to ask them if they enjoy doing it, then I know where to place them. And similarly, if they say, well, I'm not really comfortable networking. Okay, let's find what you are good at. And they'll say, well, I really like teaching others. Great. We have this position. It's a team lead, and this is what it entails. So that's how I create positions, based on a need, but also based on what my employees enjoy
Right.
doing. So I have needed virtual assistants, and I've hired for that. I have needed full-time, or not full-time, but dedicated office
Mm-hmm.
team. And so I've hired for that. And again, I looked among my network of, people that I knew to fill those positions. I've hired, or I've actually, like, my one of my old employees who was social media and did all the graphics, I just happened to say, ugh, I hate doing these graphics. And she was like, well, let me give it a try. Turns out she was really good at it, and she actually enjoyed it. And so, bam, now she has this additional role. In addition to pet sitting and dog walking, she was now social media, planning. She did all the graphic design. So as I'm just talking about what I enjoy or what I need, I see other people on the team volunteer their interest in doing
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's how we begin to create more and more positions. And as I see, oh, wow, this person is really supportive on the team channel, on the team Slack. So she's really answering questions. She's sharing information about houses. She's taking short snippet videos at houses to share with the team to help set them up for success. This is somebody that I see leadership qualities in. And I'm going to talk to this individual about her interest, if she has an interest in being a team
Mm-hmm.
lead. So I'm always on the lookout for talent. What talents do they
Right.
have? And how can I offer them additional growth
And
opportunities?
so I feel like you've
Um,
evolved into this master scouter, right? I will say when we met 4 years ago, I don't know if you're the master scouter. So tell them
no.
about like the shift you had to kind of make for you to really keep your eye out, because you telling the audience to like look for it is like next level advanced kind of business tactics where you're like, I don't know if I'm paying
Mhm.
attention like that. But you do become that
Right.
shark in your business. Can you kind of walk them through life before you started that shift?
Yeah. Well, life before, I was doing everything. I was run down. I almost feel like I had to experience multiple
Mm-hmm.
burnouts, for me to make changes. Like, I would get myself underwater and I'd be burnt out, and then I'd have time to come up for air. And it was on the times that I would come up for air and disengage from the day to day that I was able to become creative and figure out what I needed help in. Things that I don't enjoy doing, I'm tired of wasting my time on it, because what takes me hours because I'm not good at it and I don't enjoy it could take somebody only 5 minutes. That's really the eye opening that I had when I passed on to Maya, who's a really good employee for me, about the graphics. Like, that was like, oh my gosh, I just mentioned one little thing that I didn't enjoy. She turned around this amazing thing in 10 minutes. There are people that have strengths that I don't have, and I need to lean into that, and I need to be okay with it. And if I don't like it, all it takes is a conversation. Hey, can you change it right here? Can I see a couple of versions where it looks like this or has these colors? Or it takes time also to develop those people. All of your support team, it takes time to develop them to think the way you do, or to produce products the way that speak to your company and your brand and your voice. So don't just give up on the first run of testing something out with someone. So every time that I experienced burnout, I realized that I needed to find someone else to help me with this particular assignment or this particular area. Um, and then when I had people in place, it was about testing it,
Mm.
testing this method, testing the system, doing weekly check ins with the leadership team until they were fully independent and they knew what was coming up, how to think, what I would do, what I would say, so that they were now independent. in their roles of team lead, social media, office, client relations. So it took some, it takes some time at the front end to be able to get your team independent. But my biggest realizations were when I was continually experiencing burnout. And then when I just started letting other people do it.
You get to a point where
And
you're
then
like, F it. Well,
seeing
I'm
what
either
happened.
dead or you're
Yeah.
doing it. So let's just go with it.
Yeah.
And then you start
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
success of it and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Like you pull the Band-Aid off and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's doing great. And then I would just even forget about it. Like I wouldn't even, they'd submit their work for, the next month. And I wasn't in a hurry to have to look at it and, approve it all before it went out. I'm like, it's great. It's self, what is it called? Like it's running on its
on
own.
automatic.
Yeah.
So like talk to us about that transition between bringing staff on, kind of keeping them all together throughout the different layers. And so obviously this is like an automated CEO conversation at this point, but why not give them the juice? At this point, you have different layers of people in your business. How do you like bring it all together so it syncs on automatic, like you just said?
Well, I think that's where it took time on the front end. Once there's a position that is self-functioning, let's just say my office manager. Well, now her job is now to train other office support. So they're not going to be doing everything she's doing. So once somebody hones their craft, they now train other people in those duties. So our team leads, they do train new employees, but they also do some lower level office administrative stuff. So then the main office person is responsible for teaching them those office skills. The more experienced team lead is the one that's training other team leads. So I just work with them through the process of training one person, and now they got to train. Now they're developing and training all of those layers underneath them. And we're always fine tuning all of our training protocols, all of our training methods for every level of the operation, field staff, team leads, office. Okay, there's a new way to do this. Let's do a new video, or this needs an SOP. So once I have designed the initial models, then we just replicate from there.
And doesn't it feel refreshing?
Yes, because now I'm like, great, go train her. So you're going to train her on this. You're going to train her on that. Yes. Or I'll ask, hey, we're writing something up. Who's responsible? Like even something so minimal. Who is responsible for adding a new hire to Slack? I put it on the admin team to determine who's going to be responsible for that. And it goes into the onboarding SOP. Who's a responsible party for every little task.
Yeah, I agree. I can remember back in my pet era where like I was out with the dogs. I was like doing some of the phone calls that were coming in because, I was the sales expert. So I was like, all the sales, bring it to me. I don't want to lose that because that was really where I shined. But at the same time, I had a list of to-dos in my brain that I would use my Apple notepad and just write things as they kept coming up. But then they just kept getting longer and longer. And I was like, I really need to do this. And I really got to do this. And then someone would give me a really good idea. And I'm like, dang, that sounds great. I should be on that. Or like, I should be ahead of my time right now and working on that. But because I had all these wannabes on my list, I want to be, I want to do, I want to have, I never had until I start saying, you know what, unless I give this to someone in trust. I get that question a lot, is like, how do you trust people to like basically run your business for you? And it's like, you're not trusting them as humans, you're trusting them as yourself. You created the system that they're going to follow. They've helped you modify it and optimize it. And then now we're just duplicating it person after person. So I think for some people who are starting out or have just had their head in the sand for so long and then 10 years are looking up like, man, I should make a change. I've seen that a lot, especially as a mentor, that I'm like, well, how long have you been doing this? You've been running this way for how long? Goodness sakes. And like you said, you
Mm-hmm.
eventually hit multiple burnouts, but a lot of people would not course correct the way that you have. What would you say, like, was that empowerment for you to course correct, to say like, this is not the shift, or this is not the map that I should be on. I gotta take a new navigation.
Right. Yeah. I think a question that I continually, or not a question, but a comment that I would always tell myself is, I did not start this business to be the one working evenings and weekends. I did not start this business to be the one that's burnt out. I did not start this business to be the call out girl. Like, I did not, like, all of the reasons why I left one career to do this one, that had to be a constant record playing in my head. So then that I would make changes. Like, that is not why I started this. I might as well just go get a, work here or work there. I have to really create this business, whether it's, people always say time freedom or money freedom. And at first, it feels like you're not getting either, or you sacrifice one to get the other. And it is a little bit of that. And honestly, it was from my own, traumas or whatever, it was difficult at first to justify spending the money in payroll to have somebody to pay somebody to do these other things. But when you think small like that, it doesn't allow you to grow. So whether it's $40 or $1,000 at the end of the month, what wouldn't I pay to be able to leave and travel for 3 weeks? Would I pay somebody $40 a day? Heck yeah. To go and live this experience with my family? Absolutely. So when you get caught thinking small, it really prevents you from growing big or feeling big, in that you're fulfilling big dreams, whether it's you're only working, 10 hours a week. It could be simple, as small as that, or it could be as taking 3 weeks off. So I had that record playing in my head about, I didn't start it for this, so I got to change it. I didn't start it to be this person or to feel like this. And you have to find something, whether it's not just like it is the motivator, but the motivator isn't always to win. It's to not lose. So maybe your motivator is to not lose your time, to not lose out on the dinner that you were supposed to go to. So what changes do you have to make? And with education, in education, everything is about reflecting on, what did I do or didn't do? How could I do this better? And I've taken all of that in my business as well, reflecting on when there's a mistake or when there's something that needs to be changed. I reflect on, where did the hiccup happen? Where did we miss so that this doesn't happen again? Anytime somebody has to reach out to me, it's like, why are they reaching out to me? What do they not have access to? What do they not have in front of them? What have they not learned that they feel that they need to reach out to me for? And it takes practice. You just
opened up a whole new can of worms. I know, I probably did. When it's like, listen, why are they contacting me? Where did I miss? Right? It's almost like a parent, like, where did I fail you to where you're back to mommy again? Like, why aren't you self-sufficient in what we need to do to move the needle forward? Now, that's definitely going to be another conversation, and I'll 1000% have you back on the podcast to go into it, because we've gone there so many times. But like you said, when you're thinking about creating layers for your business, think about just that. Like, I'm not in this to lose. I'm in this to make an impact. I'm in this to love on more fur babies. I'm in this to scale my time, my freedom. A lot of us say we don't want to work for someone else. Well, we're just in a new job. We're creating a cage for ourselves by not kind of having that operational process. And I think you're like a great person to have. Like, I've seen you evolve over the years and make huge shifts, not just for the business, but with your own self, like that trust where you're like, let me try it. You know what? You're right. I have been just figuring it out and just putting my hand on it a little bit. But you know what? Let me try it. Let them do it, and let me see what they do with it. And they surprise us, because just like we're capable, they're capable. And I always say, I hired them, so they got to be great. I hired them.
I know.
If they're sitting here on payroll, might as well, do this thing together. But people
Yeah.
always say you don't leave, the job, you leave the boss or the establishment. And so if you're listening to this podcast right now, like what Carla is mostly saying is like, how do you create an establishment of growth where you can use them and they can feel fulfilled, like they're actually making a difference on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It's a win-win.
I love it. Well, if you have questions for Carla, you can join us in the automated CEO universe. Carla's always in there,
Mm-hmm.
vocal. She
Yeah.
hosts many of our Q&A sessions. You can also find Carla where?
You can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook at Texas Rough House, RUFF. That's our company name, our website, and it's the same on all of our social media
Perfect.
platforms.
So if you're in the process right now of hiring, revamping your team, or more importantly, what we believe in is running an automated business completely without you, definitely share this episode with a friend, a business bestie. Don't share the goodies. Don't hold out on the goodies for yourself. As you heard from today, this is an evolution of you breaking yourself out of your own cage that we've created. Being the doer
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of the times the reason why our businesses remain small or they cap, because we are bottlenecking our own systems. So if you are wanting to create layers between your staff and feel full confidence and drink a pina colada on the beach, or like Carla, going on, a dream trip with her family, you want to start thinking about how can I put some of these processes in place, so everybody wins on the team. And so, Carla, we thank
Mm-hmm.
you for being on our podcast, and we'll see you on
Thank
future
you.
episodes, of course.
Yay.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.